London, as everyone knows, is a world capital city. There's an awful lot to do, and the Metropolitan Police have
wanaagsan waa la wada wadaagay noloshan intaasay ku dhisan tahay aniga waxbaan aqaana adigaadan aan aqoon
15 years old and older, and I'm using that as an age because 15 has a specific meaning.
Community, they're, in my opinion, Somalian communities.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. دعوة الملك السعودية كجوكتان كسر هذا برنامج كأريمها bulshada xilligan si toos idin kaga imaanaya TV-ga caalamiga ee Universal xaruntiisa dhexe magaalada London. Sidaad ogtihiin barnaamijkan daaima waxaan ku qaadaa dhignaa waxyaalaha dadka Soomaaliyeed aan isleenahay way daneynayaan maxay tahay caafimaad ha ahaato wacyigelin ha ahaato ama waxa la yiraahdaa waxyaalaha ku saabsan dunuubta daa'irta Soomaaliyeed la yiraahdo waa galaan ama aysan ayagoo gelin la yiraahdo waa gashaan oo maaragtay dhibaatooyin fara badan waalidiintu ay kala kulmaan waxbarashada sidoo kale iyo waxyaalaha la midka barnaamijkan caawa ayaa waxa uu yahay kuwa soo socda insha Allah taala bishan Ramadaan ee nagu soo foodla hadii Ilaahay yiraahdo nagu talagalnay ku saabsan diintan islaamka ee quruxda badan sida adduunka ugu faafayso waxyaalo fara badan dacayada ayaa islaamka lagu hayaa iyo tawxiidka iyo nabi Ilaahay Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam miidiyaha inta ogtiina uu dagaal badan kula jira kan la qoro kan raadiyaha iyo waliba kuwa la daawadaba laakiin si kastoo ay tahay diinta Ilaahay subhanahu wa ta'ala ayaa waxay tahay mid Ilaahay ballan qaaday inay guuleysato bidaliil qawlihi ta'ala yuriduna liyutfi'u nur Allah biafwahihim hadda waxaan doonaynaa barnaamijkan caawa insha Allah ta'ala inaan ku qaada dhigno gabar halkan ila fadhido iyadoo muslimada 13 sano muslimada ahayd sidii u soo islaantay islaamka sidoo u aragtay waxay markii hore rumaysnayd iyo isbedelka hadda caawa ay halkan ku fadhido tawxiidka qalbigeeda ku jira iyo nuurka Ilaahay geliyay iyo dunida reer galbeedka sidoo tawxiidku ugu fidayo si kasta loola dagaalamo laakiin haddana ayada iskiin baro waxay ka shaqeyso waxa weeyaan in badan bay waxay ka shaqeynaysay ay ahayd human right lawyer company weyn ah ayay u shaqeynaysay waxa ayna ku takhasustay xuquuqda insaanka oo lagu tunto khaas ahaan wadanka Soomaaliya iyo dalka Zimbabwe loo yaqaano ayay ku takhasustay waxayna dagaal fara badan u gashay intay ka shaqeynaysay waxaan ilaa 2003gii dadka Soomaalida ee la haybsooco ama laga tira badan yahay inay u dagaalantay xuquuqdooda gabdhahan lagu kufsaday sida dadku ay sheegayaan masaajidada dhexdooda dhibaatooyinka loo geystay gaar ahaan jaaliyada banaadiriga ay maaragtay aad iyo aad ugu dadaashay inay maaragtay waxyaalo fara badan loo qabto home office-kuna ay aqoonsadaan markaa kadib in xuquuqdoodii lagu tuntay xaqoodan in la ilaaliyo waajib ay tahay sida dadka kale dhinaca kalena waxa ay si aad iyo aad maxay tahay close oo loo shaqeysay labada guri ee Ingiriiska House of Lords ka yiraahdo iyo House of Commons labadaba way la shaqeysay waxay kaloo ay cod ku leedahay ama kursi ku leedahay maxkamadda weyn ee dalkan oo ra'yigeeda la tixgeliyo waxay kaloo u dagaalantay dadkii lagu soo eedeeyay inay ka dambeeyeen qaraxii ka dhacay London 77 loo yaqaano dadkaas ay u dagaalantay oo ay maaragtay caawimaad fara badan halka ka geysatay dhinaca kalena hadda waxay ka shaqeysaa oo ay shaqadeedu tahay criminal lawyer weeyaan waxaan la rabnaa inaan kaga faa'iideysano aqoonteeda iyo waxa ay baratay Ilaahay waa tuulaya fasalu ahli dhikri inaan kaga faa'iideysano da'yarteena Soomaaliyeed ee xabsiyada lagu guro dhibaatada ay u timaado qof muslina oo difaaca dhaqankii iyo afkiina yaqaan aan haysan inta faraha badan xogaa yar af Soomaaliyeed way taqaanaa ala kullin waxaan soo dhaweynayaa walaashin Susan aan jeclahay caawina si fiican u soo dhaweysaan meel kasta joogtaan maxay yeelay waa mu'allifatul qulub rasuulku sallallahu alayhi wasallam soo dhaweey waayay laakiin caawa kama hadlayno shaqada ay qabato waxaan ka hadlaynaa say tawxiidka u qaadatay iyo islaamku sidii ugu yimid wiigaga soo socday before Ramadan insha Allah taala barnaamij weyn baan qabanaynaa waalidiinta carruurtooda laga xiray kuwii dhibaatada soo gaadhay kuwa hadda maxkamaduhu ay u socdaan oo koodka maxay tahay mar walba leh ayaan insha Allah taala su'aalo wax ka weydiinaa idinkana fursad baan idin siinayna sidee doontaba haatee hadal badan haan ma buuxiyo Sister Susan, welcome to Universal TV and thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
I've said a lot in Somali in a very fast way and I would like you to explain to us how your life was before Islam.
Before I was Muslim, I was a Catholic, but I wasn't very practicing in my Catholic faith. But I would identify myself as a Catholic. I was brought up as a Catholic from an Irish background. But at the time when I looked at Islam, first of all, I was at university, so I wasn't really practicing anything, just enjoying the social element of being at university. But then I would always still identify myself as Catholic, just the normal things as a Muslim would on Eid and this and these sort of occasions like Christmas, etc. So I would identify myself as a Catholic, and I believed in one God, but I wouldn't say I was practicing a religion strongly at that time. Yeah.
And on the other hand, you didn't like Islam and the Muslims. You had this misconception about Islam and Muslims and what we practice.
That's right. Yeah, I was quite anti-Islam when I was at university, because I would identify myself as quite a feminist, very liberal in most views. So I actually targeted Islam as one of my big issues. So when they had the Islamic Society and they would debate, I would go and debate against them, for example, and it wasn't so much any negative propaganda, it was just I would be aware of what people say about Islam, that it was backwards, that it was very anti-women and things like that. I would take all the negativity. So I would actually read the Quran, but to take negativity, I would use ayahs in there to go and say, you can do this and you can do that, and your religion's quite bad. So I would say I was actually actively against Islam, yeah.
Right. What did you find most unacceptable on those days in Islam?
I think there were two things I found unacceptable. Was that I thought that a religion should be quite relaxed. Although as a Irish Catholic, it was part of like our blood. We are Irish and we are Catholic. I didn't give the same sort of respect to Islam. So I used to think that, if you're a Muslim, why do you have to be so strict on these things? I had other Muslim friends who were really relaxed. So when I saw Muslims who were very practicing, I used to think that, this is too much. This is something that's not for the 21st sort of century. And also, I think some of the people who were talking about Islam weren't very educated. So how they would put things out, I was able to quickly change them into something negative. Things about women, or, they would use verses without the context. And I would quickly be able to say, well, just attack them with it, unfortunately.
I understand most of the Christians believe the Holy Trinity.
That's right, yeah.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, coming from that doctrine to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Tawheed, Allah is one and only, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. How did you move from Trinity to one single God?
Well, I think the thing is, a lot of Christians are sort of in denial about the Trinity. They try and justify it in a lot of different ways, and certainly I think I did. So there are people who say there's a Trinity, but God is one. It's just an expression of His sort of attributes would be there are three. But then once you start studying the Catholic religion, you can't get away from the fact that people believe Jesus is God, and then you come to an issue there can't be God and Jesus being God. So there is more than one identity they're believing in, So that was one of the issues why I had difficulties with the Catholic faith and actually looked at other religions, because I couldn't accept that point. So because I couldn't accept that God could have a son or could have any human characteristics, it's one of the reasons that made me look at a different religion. So I was actually looking for confirmation that there is only one God, you know what I mean? So that wasn't the main issue, because once I found that in Islam, it was what I was looking for.
As a young lady back then, and still of course, looking at Islam and as a backward religion, it's what we hear every day. Islam is anti-woman, Islam doesn't like women, Islam wants to keep women indoors. Is that what you find it when you embrace Islam?
No, not at all. But then when I had quite a long journey to Islam. It took like maybe 2 years of reading, and because I was so anti-Islam, it took a long time. I looked at when I was looking at the issues with the Catholic faith, I looked at other religions. Obviously, I only believed in God, as in I couldn't believe in something like Hinduism or something because it was too far from my own belief. So you're looking at Judaism, Catholic religion, really that's what you're sort of, and the Muslim religion. You're looking at those three because you can't. It's very difficult to jump from a Catholic religion to a different type of religion. So. Obviously, I never looked at Islam for a long time. Once I did look at it, I think it took a long time because I still had all those views, and I think that most of those views were from listening to things around me rather than actually going to the actual sources. And I think that's the problem. I think people speak a lot without knowledge, and that's what gets people a bit confused. You know, people who are non-Muslims. Yeah.
Right. Staying with the how you presented Islam to, were the Muslims that were around you, were they helpful? Were they knowledgeable? Did they know how to give da'wah?
I think no. I think most Muslims around me didn't, because you know, when you're at university, it's a very relaxed time for most people. So I think everybody, doesn't matter. It's not, you know, it's not a religious label. It's your students, you're studying, and it's the university time of your life. And unless you're a very practicing person in your religion, you're all going to be more or less the same. You know, enjoying the social element of it. So I don't think they were. I think I was probably more politically, I would say politically against Islam than they were advocating it. They were just, you know, people who are not very practicing or feel they're not practicing, I think are quite private about it, so they don't really talk to you about things. So they weren't really, the people who were giving dawah unfortunately weren't the best people. They were people who had, I would say, their style, and they didn't really have enough wisdom to how to put Islam out. I mean, it was good they were doing. I don't want to say that was a negative thing, but it's a very difficult thing to give dawah. I think you have to really know what you're saying, otherwise you can actually cause a bit of confusion.
Indeed. I'll just put that quickly into Somali. waxay tiri walaasheen waxaan ahaa gabar ka timid reer maxay Christian oo rumaysnaa saddexda ilaah ee ay caabudaan dadka aan ayagu muslimka ahayn, khaasatan Catholic iyo Christianka badankooduba. waxaan ahaa bay tiri dadka aad iyo aad uga soo horjeeda lana dagaalama diintan iyo tawxiidka, dadkana ku yiraahdo islaamku waxa weeye mid dib u socod keenaya, dumarka xuquuqdoodana ku tunta, dhibaato fara badan dunida ku keeni kara. taasina waxay ahayd bay tiri waxaan anagu rumaysnaa iyo wixii la igu soo barbaarshay inuu islaamku yahay mid xun. waxaan kaloo weydiiyey dadkii la joogay inay dacwo siiyeen iyo siday dacwo siiyeen. waxay tiri dad aad iyo aad dacwada ugu fiican ma aysan ahaayeen, dhalinyaro ay ahaayeen, laakiinse intay awoodeen way noo sheegeen. dabadeedna waxaan weydiiyey sidee baad hal ilaah oo maxay saddex ilaah oo kala duwan oo mid dhintay oo mid dhashay oo midna meel uu ku maqan yahay aan la garanaynin iyo tawxiidkan quruxda badan oo nuurka islaamka aad ugu timid. dabadeedna waxay ku jawaabtay in islaamku markay akhriday 2 sano uu ku qaatay, dabadeedna ay aragtay waxay raadinaysay iyo nuurkii inay halka ka heshay. hadalkeeda xaraf xaraf in kuma macnayn kara waqtiga diidaya, laakiin waxaan rabaa inaan picture guud ahaan idin siiyo. Okay sister, when was your turning point that you say, listen, no more Catholic, Islam is my religion?
I think there were 2 steps to it, because what happened was I had read quite a lot. Eventually, when I did actually open my mind a bit more to Islam, I read quite a lot. I didn't really talk to people around me because they really did confuse me.
What were you reading though?
I was reading like comparative religion books, you know, because I was still trying to think, is the Catholic religion the right one? And the questions I had in the Catholic religion, like the Trinity and things like that, and the Old Testament like seemed very clear and certain, and the New Testament seemed to change everything. So I was looking for certainty, really. That's what I was looking for. Certainty that whatever I find cannot be changed. Because if I was, my view was, if the Catholic religion can change like that, what's to say it's not going to change tomorrow? And how can that be sort of a religion if it can keep evolving? Because I was looking for certainty. So I read quite a few books, and then I think from a more of an academic point of view, began to accept that Islam was the most authentic religion. Historically, there were non-Muslims who wrote about Islam, saying how accurate it was, how the Prophet ﷺ existed and his history. So I think from an academic point, I thought, okay, this is actually real, like sort of analysed evidence. But I think that was probably a year of reading it, and then it still wasn't actually I don't think my heart was open to it. So I went through a sequence of actually speaking to an imam and he encouraged me to read more and more and more. And I think it was only after reading a book about how a dialogue between a priest and an imam, and how at the end of that the priest became Muslim, it made me understand that the fear was I was leaving behind the Catholic faith, and what if I was wrong? That was the fear. So basically, even though I could mentally accept that Islam was the right right religion, the issue was there was that doubt. What if I am wrong? Because I was sort of on my own journey. But when I realised actually I was just stepping into the new sort of section of the religion, because it had evolved from Judaism, you know, Christianity, and really the last Prophet ﷺ is, you know, Muhammad ﷺ. So I was actually stepping on, and I think that's when my heart opened a bit, so I didn't, you know, I felt more comfortable. But I think, it was probably about a year and a half after reading it, and I think with a lot of people, it either comes first in your heart and then you learn about it. But I always say I'm a textbook Muslim because I sort of learned it first and then embraced it, because you can have a lot of knowledge, but if Allah doesn't open your heart, it doesn't really work. You know. But yeah, I think it was about a year and a half after reading.
Okay. Have you during that period of time, I assume that you read the Quran itself?
Yeah, in an English version, and more books about, you know, how the Quran was revealed. I was more concerned about the fact that it was, you know, it was in the same state as it had been revealed, so it cannot be changed, because I think that's one of the reasons people go to Islam, for certainty.
Yes.
And it's amazing that when you read history books about how it was revealed, when it was revealed, when it was transcribed, and how that, you know, the sort of calligraphy evolved and everything like that, and how that has never changed. SubhanAllah, that's really, I think, the certainty that so as well as reading the Quran in English, I read books about just how it was revealed, because that was one of the issues, you know, the certainty that it would never change.
Okay, now you got a copy of the Quran in English translation. Reading that text there compared to the Bible, for example, how did you see the difference?
To be honest with you, I was shocked when I first read the Quran, because I read the Bible when I was on my journey of whether or not the Catholic faith was for me. That was probably the first time I read the Bible as an adult. So when I read the Bible as an adult, that's raised all my questions as to I've got some issues here. And the Bible is so anti-women, it's unbelievable, and people don't realise that. It's very anti-women. So when I read the Quran, because first time when I read it, I wasn't actually having an open mind. I was expecting to see a lot more of the things which I'd heard, like, you know, you can, you know, negative things, what you can do to women and so forth. But actually I was surprised at things like, you know, the amount of text that's dedicated to women, to women's rights. There's nothing actually derogatory to women. I mean, one of the difficulties with an English Quran is that there are different translations, and you have to be very careful. Sometimes it can say something totally, you know, it can add a lot of like commentary, which is not part of the actual text. So you have to be a bit careful. But in general, and comparatively to what I would say would be in the Catholic, in the Bible, about negativity to women, I was so shocked that actually everything in the Quran was essentially positive in terms of women's rights. And it was actually, it's very easy to manipulate the text and make it negative, as I used to do. But when you read it in context, I think that's the most important thing. That's probably the most surprising thing for me, you know, that the actual amount of time and text given to women's rights, and just human rights in general. Do you know what I mean? Because I was always avid human rites, you know, even studying. That was my thing. I was always going to be civil liberties or human rights. That's what I really wanted to do. In whatever sphere, it was to help people who, you know, need their rights assisted, whatever, if they're oppressed. So, you know, essentially Islam, you know, is the thing that abolished slavery. It's the things that brought rights to women. You know, historically, that is the guide. But I didn't realise that obviously until I actually read the Quran. So yeah.
I'll put that to the audience quickly. Daawadayaal weli waxaa nagala socotaan TV-ga caalamiga ee Universal si live qaybtiisa arrimaha bulshada oonu kaga hadlayno dadka muslimiinta oo dhulalkan ku nool iyo say tawxiidka u qaataan iyo waxyaalaha ku keena inay qaataan islaamka. Waxaan weydiiyey maxay ahayd wixii kugu kalifay inaad islaamka qaadatid. Waxay tiri waxaan akhriyay islaamka markaan waayay anoo diinteedii aan haystay iyo diimaha kale ka waayay bay tiri xaqiiqada waxa xaq loo yaqaano anoo raadinaya ayaan waxaan islaam ka helay bay tiri xaqii ayaan islaam ka helay taasina waxay igu abuurtay bay tiri inaan akhris fara badan sameeyo 2 sano ilaa sanadii bar ayaan wax akhrinayay bay tiri dabadeedna markaan akhris fara badan sameeyay ayaan waxaan go'aansaday qalbi maskaxda ka go'aansaday inay tano tii xaq ahayd laakiin cabsi baa igu jirtay haddaan diinteedii ka soo tago hore aan u haystay saddexda ilaa la caabudayay tan aan u imaado amay taydii saxsanaataa marka maadaama aanan hubinin islaamkii shakigaas iyo cabsi baa igu jirtay bay tiri laakiin haddaan ilaahay qalbigaaga uusan furinin bay tiri maskaxdaada waxa ku jira qalbigaaga uma daadegi karaan sida kale haddaan ku ilaada hidaayada ilaahay subxaana watacaala baa haye waxay i xasuusisay suuradda 28 ee qur-aanka kariimka suuratu qasas loo yaqaano aayadeeda آيدي نمبركي بحث هذا لكن إلهي سبحانه وتعالى أوليه إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء إلهي سبحانه وتعالى يعد دونها نوريه عدك محاية هذا عدة جعشة ما هنولين كرتين waxaan kaloo weydiiyey markii kitaabka quraanka gacanta ku dhigtay oo akhriday markii uu horeysay iyo bible-kii ay haysatay maxay ku kala duwanaayeen waxayna tiri markaad bible-ka akhrido waxaad ku arkaysaa wax fara badan oo dumarka ka soo horjeeda waa buug dumarka xuquuqdooda lagu dhaawaco dhibaatana lagu geysto laakiin dad badan ma oga laakiin quraanka markaan u horeyso akhriyo waxaan rajeynayay bay tiri in uu yahay wixii aan maqli jiray islaamku dumarka xuquuqdooda ku tuntaa waxun weeyaan ayaan maaragtay ka fakarayay inaan ku arko laakiin waxaan arkay bay tiri waxaa ka duwan ilaahay subxaana wa tacaala wuxuu i tusay nuurkii iyo xaqii ayuu i tusay intaa waxay kaloo raacsiisay islaamku only inuusan dumarka xuquuq kaliya siinin maaha bay tiri bal insaanka oo dhan ayuu wuxuu siiyey xaqoodii iyo human right oo anigu ka shaqayn jiray ayuu isiiyey bay tiri baan ku arkay bay tiri wax walba iyo wax fara badan oo islaamku uu qoray oo dumarka xuquuqdooda lagu dhowray waxaan hadda rabaa inaan weydiiyo inay xasuusan tahay in kale ma ogi laakiin waan xasuusinaya insha allahu tacaala xadiiska laga wariyey sala allahu calay wasalam uu leeyahay jannadu waxay ku jirtaa hooyada lugaheeda hoosteeda iyo siday u aragto my sister there's a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says the paradise lies beneath the feet of the under the feet of the mother. When you hear that and you hear Islam is backward and is anti-woman, what did you say to people?
Well, I think as women we have got a responsibility to be much more vocal as Muslim women, you know, in our rights, in expressing the rights in Islam, because that is just one of the major things in Islam. You know, things like the paradise is at the feet of your mother, that you can never repay your mother for things like childbirth and what she does for you in your life, all these sort of things, and even the general things of women in terms of marriage, in terms of, you know, our general rights, inheritance. We need to educate ourselves. It's very important because once someone says something like, oh, a man gets a bigger share than a woman, for example, inheritance, if you don't understand the responsibility of the man, how he's got to share his share, and that the fact that the woman's share is for herself, and therefore it works out she's very much better off, you don't know how to answer these questions. And this is how people do get the wrong idea. And I was one of those people, because if I ask someone that, oh, you know, you can domestically abuse your wife, or you can, you know, you get more money, you give the wives less money and, you know, inheritance, and they couldn't answer that to me. So actually that's one of the issues. We have to educate ourselves as women. I think it's very important. But yeah, that's things that softened my heart. Even when I wasn't, I would say when I was learning about Islam, the things that softened my heart were definitely the mercy and I think the beautiful rights that Islam gives to him, which no other religion can give or does give. You know, it's amazing, mashallah.
waxay tiri markaan soo koobay si degdeg ah telefoonada rabaan idin furo xadiiska iyo waxyaalaha kale oo la halmaano waxyaalaha qalbigayga jilciyay ayay ku jirtay way tiri islaamkuna waa diinta kaliya oo xuquuqda buuxda oo naxariistu ku jirto siiyay ummadda iyo maxay tahay dumarkaba وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين في سورة الأنبياء بكون مغان كرتا waxay kaloo tiri islaamka waxyaalaha dadka lagu maaragtay ay ku dawaqaan mararka qaarkood lagu confuse gareeyo waxa kamid ah islaamku dumarka xuquuq ma siinin maxaa yeelay dhaxalka markay timaado ragga iyo dumarku waa u kala badan yihiin laakiin waa inaanu diinta baranaa bay tiri oo aanu baranaa waxa ninkana xoogaa loo siiyey gabadhana ayada gooni loo siiyey ninku hadhowta gabar kale ayuu wixii la sheergaraynayaa meesha gabadhu intii la siiyey dhaxalka meesha iyadoo ay qaadanayso and that is beautiful bay ku leedahay taasina waa mid qurux saaxiiba waxaan ilaahay uga mahadcelinayaa tawxiidka uu nagu manaystay subxaanahu watacaala iyo xabiibka uu soo diray sala allahu calayhi wasalam diin aan diinta ilaahay ahayna qalbigeena inaysan gelin baan insha allahu tacaala rajeynayaa barnaamijkan ayaa wuxuu imaanayaa xilli dad fara badan oo soomaaliya oo ku nool dhulka banaankiisa ama shaki ama waswaas uu galo ama kooxa christiana xabad roodhiya ay kaga gataan tawxiidka diinta ilaahay roodhi ma goyso haddii tawxiidka ay roodhi kaa goynayso ama shaki uu kugu jirana waxaad u tagtaa dadka yaqaano ilaahay yiri fasalu ahli dhikra ayagaa shakiga kaa saaray insha allahu tacaala rabbigaana usoo noqo waxaadna ogaataa ilaahay albaabkiisu mar walba wuu furan yahay shiikh ha usoo marin shariif ha usoo marin nebi ha usoo marin wadaad tusbax watana ha usoo marin ilaahay daaragti oo la hadal insha allahu tacaala sister I'm going to we're going to have a phone lines inshallah and there's a lot of brothers and sisters who really want to talk to you topic haddaan idin xasuusiyo waxa weeye gabadhan say islaamka u qaadatay iyo islaamka suu dunida ugu faafaya insha allahu tacaala wax kale kagama hadlayno barnaamijkan waxaa fududeeyey hotelka la yiraahdo Moonlight Hotel and Restaurant oo ku yaala magaalada Nairobi haddii aad samarkan Nairobi tagaysid hotelkaasana kugula talin lahayd one of the best hotels airportkan way kaasoo qaadeen wayna ku geynayaan qolkuna waa fully kuwa intibay leeyihiin insha allahu tacaala qofka u horeeya halo may maqashaa alaykum الله وبركاته وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته عدك أدبي يقول هاي عبد الغني وحنا كعد سنة عدك يرى داريو
فرستي على
hello مقعة
I'm Naima.
You're Naima. Hello Naima, where are you calling from?
I'm calling for London.
Welcome to the program. What would you like to ask?
I want to appreciate you and our sister in Islam. I only say assalamu alaikum to her.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I only say you are from darkness, from Christianity to Muslim. We are proud of you, dear sister.
Jazakallah khair.
And I only say, I have seen a lot of Christian people who are converted to Islam. And I'm really, really proud to those people who come from the darkness to, and Allah choosing you from darkness to the light. Do you agree with me, dear sister?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Naim.
Yep.
Alhamdulillah, today you are the most higher person in this world. So I only say to you, keep it up. And I will pray for you to meet in the Jannah one day, inshallah.
Inshallah.
aad baad umahadsantahay Naciim, haddaad anigana igu daraleed waan kaaga mahadcelin lahaa. Thanks for the call.
Allah, all the people, all of the Muslim people who live in this world.
kula kaftamay khayr Allah ku siiyo, waa mahadsantahay. dhinaca kale telefonka halo may maqashaa? halo, asalaamu calaykum.
Hello, alaikum salam.
magaca walaal?
Fi'an, alhamdulillah. My name's Ahlam. I just want to say assalamu alaikum, sister, and we're proud to bring you into our Islamic culture, and I hope you enjoy your time being Muslim, and may Allah guide you for the rest of your time. Alhamdulillah. I just wanted to know what made you convert. What was that one time that you thought, I want to change, and this is not the life that I want to live? What made you change? And if you had any inspirational speech to say to the non-Muslims, what would it be? What would you say to non-Muslims, and how would you sort of tell them, how your life was before and how your life has changed now?
Okay, thank you, Ahlam.
Thank you.
Do you want to answer it?
Yeah, I think the first bit of the question was, I think what made me change was a journey to find, the truth in that, because I had issues with my own religion, but no actual event made me change. It was more studying the religion, and I think sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to actually sometimes go a different way. It's not a big event. You just have to look into it. And I think if anyone truly opens their mind, first of all, opens their mind to look at Islam and just with a blank mind, there's no doubt you will find it's the truth. The problem is if you look at it with preconceptions like I did for quite a while. That's why it took a while to get to the point I did. But I then think that, once, and as well, I think one of the issues someone told me, which was very good advice, was that you will become confused if you look at all Muslims around you, because we're all different, even today. I think, we're all on a journey, and everyone's on their own journey, and we can't really judge each other as to where everyone is. So you can't take the next Muslim who's next to you as the example of Islam, because like me, like everyone else, everyone's on their own journey, their own struggle. And one person told me that, if you really want to learn Islam, then just look at the Quran and the Sunnah. First of all, don't look at Muslims, look at the Quran and the Sunnah, read that, understand that, and talk to knowledgeable people about that. And that's the base, and I think that's what I would say to any non-Muslim. At the moment today, it's very difficult. There's so many different types of Muslims, practicing in some very liberal way, some in a very conservative way, and we can't really say who's right or wrong. We just have to try and stick to the Quran and Sunnah. But I would say as well that there are certain, I personally, when I first became Muslim, I must say that there are certain communities that are really welcome, and I have to say that for me it was definitely the Somali community who are most welcoming and most willing to show the character of Islam, and I think that's very important. I think non-Muslims should actually study Islam, but as Muslims we need to start showing the character more, the softness of Islam more, without being very dogmatic to people.
Indeed. Okay, we'll go back to the lines. And hal kelimo oo degdeg insha Allah taala waxay tiri markaan islaamka qaatay dadkii aadka ii soo dhaweeyay oo matalay waxaan akhriyay oo diinta ah waxay ahaayeen dadka Soomaalida ah. waxaan kaloo idin sheegayaa bacda tawxiid inaan aad iyo aad ugu faraxsanahay Ilaahay subhanahu wa ta'ala inuu idinka iga keen dhaliyay Soomaalida meel kasta joogtaan. waa hagaag dhinaca telefoonada halo may maqashaa?
Hello.
Assalaamu alaykum sheekh.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
soo dhawow magaca?
والله عبد الناصر بالإيران.
Welcome brother عبد الناصر.
waxaan ka soo hadlayaa London.
Hi.
And I would like to say our sister, and mashallah, I really appreciate the point that you made earlier. The point which was, the inheritance about Islam and how people understand that. And I really understand. I really appreciate the point that you made for the, for Muslim populations, and also the point that you made that people should understand, why man or woman got different things for their inheritance. And mashallah, I was not really expecting that point from you, and how long you have been with Islam. Mashallah, you educate yourself to be a Muslim. And I really say, mashallah, you made a lot of Muslim people who want to be Muslim, to learn about Islam. And inshallah, my sister, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes you the leader for Muslims, for Muslim women. And inshallah, you will lead a good example for other Muslims. Mashallah, sister.
Amen, inshallah.
aad baad mahadsantaha brother khayr allah ku siiyo barnaamijkan waxaa kaloo fududeeyey marka waa ku soo wada camal Amerikaadi waxaa fududeeyey Duncan Lewis solicitor loo yaqaano aanu jecelnahay insha Allah ta'ala inaad booqataan wixii aad uga baahataan waa hagaag halo ma maqashaa halo assalaamu alaykum
عليكم السلام
magaca
وصالحة
magaca so maxaad doonaysaa inaad tiraahdi what would you like to say
Salam alaikum. I'm very proud of you, sister. I've been waiting for this program to see this program. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy our journey to our religion. I'm very proud of you. Really proud of you.
Oh, jazakallah khair.
MashaAllah. Well done. أقف كلو حاجة. Hello. وين مقشارنا عكلة؟ وحاجة. قف كاسي مو مقرأي. Sister, one very important question I really have is when you hear the media, even some Muslim media, they often say Islam did this. Islam and terrorism are used synonymously. Not only for non-Muslims, but the Muslims themselves. Isn't that some kind of brainwashing from George Bush? You either be with us or not.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think Muslims are backed into a corner sometimes. Everyday Muslims are backed into a corner about things like terrorism, things like jihad. You are, because there are concepts in Islam which give rise to certain situations where things can happen. So sometimes you're asked to deny these concepts. Not that you're saying any sort of terrorist act is okay or any sort of certain jihad is okay, but you're put into a corner where you're asked, you have to denounce such concepts. That's very difficult for Muslims, and Muslims often react in a way to try and defend their religion, which comes across as they're defending some maybe act of atrocity which Muslims don't defend. So I think it's about us being a bit more careful, but I think the key with things like that, things really serious, it's better to say nothing. Unless you're someone who's very much able to express yourself, it's better to say nothing, because everything does get twisted, and we have to understand the media is very anti-Islam, society is very anti-Islam, but we know that our religion is not supposed to be, there is like a lot of stuff in our religion which tells us that the religion will be strange and people will find it strange. We have to hold on to that. So we can't crave acceptance, we just have to accept ourselves. If we're going to try and get acceptance and try and justify concepts which people will never, non-Muslims sometimes will never take certain concepts, because I wouldn't when I wasn't Muslim. Certain concepts I could never try and express to my family, because even as a Muslim you have to be at a certain level to understand them. So it is a bit difficult, but I think we just have to understand how controversial they are and not add fuel to the fire.
Indeed. waxaan walaasheen weydiiyey mararka qaarkood waxaan maqlaysaa in miidiyaha uu isticmaalo islaamka hadallo lagu ceebeynayo, bal dadka muslimiinta miidiyaha ka shaqeeya qaarkood inay isticmaalaan erayada sida islamist, islaamkii iyo quruxdii iyo nuurkii ilaahay uu nabi maxamed soo dhiibay iyo qarax iyo burbur iyo dhibaato iyo dad masaakiin oo laayo baa islaamkii lagu lafaaqaya. marka waxay tiri arrintaas kale in laga fogaado weeyaan, haddii aanu doonin inaan dunidan ku noolaano anagoo diinteena haysatana waanaan u diyaar garoona inaan noqono qurabaa, dad yacni qariiba oo lala yaabo, sidii berigii kana hadalkan moranana ku daraya si aan sawir guud idin siiyo, sidii berigii rasuulka iyo saxaabadiisu ay cusbaanaayeen oo kale waa lala yaabi jiray. marka adduunka waanaan ugu noolaanaa dad quraba ah oo diintooda ku dhaga subxaana rasuulkoodana raaca sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Hijab. The moment you step outside your house, you're making a statement.
Absolutely.
Because simply the scarf of your head.
Yeah.
A lot of people will look at you in different ways. Maybe Somali or Arabic sister, people may notice because they expect foreigners to be Muslims, and depending on where they come from. You are a white sister. The moment you step outside, you look different than anyone else. How did you
absolutely.
do that?
I mean, hijab was an issue for me, an issue for my family. The biggest issue for my family wasn't becoming Muslim. It was like, just don't start dressing like this, because people will know. Like, if you become a Muslim in your house, no one knows any different. But once you wear hijab, it's an identity. It's a statement. When I became Muslim, it took about 6 months to wear hijab. And I was adamant I wouldn't wear it when I became Muslim. I was adamant that it wasn't something I would do. But again, I think once it's all about knowledge. Once you read why and how it's necessary, it gives you the strength to do it. You know, and I think it's very important that Islam that we understand how to express it to other people as well, because it is a statement, but it's a positive statement. And the reason people think it's negative is because they think it's to do with men, it's to do with you being forced to wear it because of, you know, some sort of, you know, your husband, your brother, your father, some sort of honor. But what it is it's an honor from Allah. And I think we have to understand how to express ourselves. All of our rights are not given to us by men. No offense to brothers, you know what I mean? But it's not given to us by men, they're given to us by Allah. All of our protections are given to us by Allah. And no man can change those. So if we educate ourselves, the fact that hijab is about modesty, it's about identifying yourself as a Muslim. So, you know, like as we know from the history of Islam, so you are treated in a different way. Now, sometimes that's negative in the society we live in, but that's part of the struggle, you know. We know there's like modesty in dress for a man and a woman. You know, people never talk about the man, but we know there is. You know, it's all defined as to what we should wear because of modesty. So, you know, so we are comfortable with each other, so we can interact with each other in a comfortable way. But the main issue is definitely respect for a woman, respect for yourself, modesty for yourself, and a statement that I'm a Muslim and I'm proud to be a Muslim. And that's nothing to do with men. But unfortunately, because we haven't been very proactive as women in expressing that and saying that this is my choice, it's a freedom, you know, but it's a choice that I'm making to obey Allah. That's what it is. And you know, when you go out, sometimes it's difficult. I mean, I'm from a very small village in Ireland, so when I went there, there's no Muslims there anyway, so it was a bit strange. But obviously where I live in the UK, it's very mixed. But if you go outside certain areas, it's strange. But I think, again, then that's the responsibility on us. How do we interact with people? Do we smile at people? You know, sometimes people will ask you when you smile at them, like, why do you wear that? You know, even in a negative way, but it opens up the conversation. And I always say that wearing hijab is the best form of dawah, because people will ask you questions. They think it's strange, you know, and that's one point for dawah. But the good point is that you're identified by Muslims and you feel part of a big community. You know, when you go out, you see other sisters and, you know, identify yourself, and you know that if you're in an area where there's lots of Muslims, you feel part of that. So it's a very positive thing. We just have to make sure we let everyone know that. You know.
Before I translate that quickly, I'll take a few calls. Hello, Mim Gasha. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Magaca.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Magaca.
Yahya.
Yahya, how old are you?
I'm 12 years old.
12 years old. Take it away. What would you want to say?
I would say that, sister, I love you for the sake of Allah. How your iman in your heart for Allah, for bringing you into this religion. I congratulate you for coming into this religion. And inshallah, may Allah make a lovely journey for you.
Inshallah. I mean, Yahya, well done. Well done. Do you want to talk to Yahya, sister?
Oh, I don't know what to say to him. Have you got any question for me?
This is sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, he's lovely. Oh, he's gone.
Yahya? Yahya's gone. Next person.
Hello.
Hello. Salaam alaikum.
Yeah?
Yes, Magaca.
Mariam.
Mariam, solo Mariam. How do you say it?
I want to ask basically the congratulations, and I want to say that keep on doing the hard work, and also I wanted to say that try since you changed religion, we were all welcoming you, and we don't want you to feel outsided, but also welcoming you as well. And how does your family feel about you changing religion exactly?
Yeah, well, I think obviously initially it's very difficult, but we're a very, very close family. Irish families are generally very, very close, and you can pretty much do the worst thing they can imagine and you'll still stay part of the family. It'll be an internal issue, So I never feared that they would reject me, because it's just not possible in culturally it would never happen. But obviously it was very difficult for my mum. She's she's a strict practicing Catholic, and the main issue at the beginning was hijab and things like that. I think more of she thought if I went further in it, it'll be harder to come back. But I still think even today she probably hopes that I'd come back, because obviously her belief is if you leave the Catholic religion, you will go to hell unless you come back before you die. And obviously our belief is if you're not part of the Muslim religion, you're in difficulty. So, but it's difficult. But I think now it's been quite a while, and I think the most important thing is that you have to know your family. It's very difficult for me to have open discussions about religion in my family, because they are very strict in their belief. It's like someone trying to tell me Islam is wrong. It's very difficult. So it's by character, it's by staying close to them, by telling them if you do extra things for them and that they don't expect is that I'm doing this because you're my mom and Islam says I have to do these things. It's actually from my religion. It's not even my choice. I mean, I want to do them, but it's my religion that says I have to do this no matter what. Indeed. And those are the things I think which keep you close, even if there's not a full acceptance. Alhamdulillah, it keeps you close, and only Allah can guide. So you have to just try your best.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We'll take one more telephone call, inshallah, and then we will conclude. Hello, Ma'am Asha.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Hi, my name is Najma and I'm calling from Bristol.
Hello, Najma.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate the sister for embracing Islam, mashallah. I just want to ask you, do you have any books that you've read that you found beneficial that you could recommend to any other Muslims or non-Muslims?
Yeah, I think one of the most beneficial books I read, and I can't remember the full name, but it's called A Dialogue Between a Priest and an Imam. That's actually the title. And I think that's very good, because it's a priest asking all the questions which I had about my religion, and it's an Imam answering them all with reference to Islam, like how in the Bible it mentions about the Prophet ﷺ coming. So you feel like you're not actually leaving a religion, which is always a fear. You're just moving on, you're learning more about the Trinity and everything. And in the end, as I said, in the end of that book, the priest actually becomes Muslim because the answers are so convincing. So I think that's really good. I think it's called A Dialogue Between a Priest and an Imam. It's sort of something on that lines. That was probably the best book. I think that was the turning point for me.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, no,
thanks, Najma. Sister, 30 seconds. What is your message to the community?
I think my message is that we have to really all work together and realize that Islam isn't really one size fits all. We have to be patient with each other. We have to understand everyone's on a journey, and Islam is not supposed to be easy. It's peaceful. It's the answer to everything, but we're supposed to be tested. And I think it's very important that we realize, particularly people who have a younger generation have got a very difficult journey in trying to keep on their deen, and we have to maybe be less judgmental with each other, because the stronger we become, the more we help each other, the more merciful we are to each other. I think the more stronger we become as a community, the better it is for the whole community. Inshallah.
Okay, daawadayaal waxaa la soo gaaray gabagabadii barnaamijka. Waxaan rabaa inaan idiin sheego waxyaalo yar kuwiga insha Allah tacaala. Second week July insha Allah tacaala waxaan jecelahay inay sisterku halkaa noogu soo noqoto aanu ka hadalno dadka criminalka record kale dhibaatada daayarto ay gasho, haddii adiga booliisku ku maagay, haddii xaqaaga lagu tuntay, inay idiin dagaalanto insha Allah tacaala. magaceedo fuulaya addresskeeda iyo telefonka meesha laga helay ayaa programka markuu socdo in soo qorina insha Allah tacaala saasoo noo noqonaya kaas waa kan soo socda. Waxay hadaladeedii ugu dambeeyay ay sheegtay, waxay tiri islaamka inaad qaadatid oo maaragtaa lagu daayo ha u malaynay waa lagu imtixaanaya. waxayna soo xasuusay suuradda 29 quraanka kariimka alif lam mim ahasiba an-nasu an yudraku an yaqulu amanna wa hum la yuftanun. waxay kaloo taabatay xijaabka, ay tiri maaragtay raggana xijaabka qayb bay ka leeyihiin, dumarka oo rag bay ka leeyihiin, laakiin ragga baa inta badan dumarkun baa la xusaa. suuratu nuur oo suuradda 24 aayadda 3 iyo aayadda 1 sidoo kale suuratu ahzaab aayadda suuradda 3 aayadda 59 aayaddii aan gafay numberkeedana waxay ahayd suuradda 18 suuradda 28 aayadda 56 fi suurati qasas ayay ahayd. intaas waxay naga ahanaysaa insha allahu tacaala barnaamijkeeni maanta. intaanu dib isugu kasoo noqon doono waxaan u mahad celinayaa cabdiqani ba oo barnaamijkan quruxda badan ka dambeeyey, cabdalla oo soo saaraha barnaamijka arrimaha bulshada ah, iyo sisterkeenu ayadoo aad iyo aad maaragtay aan usoo dhaweynayna insha allahu tacaala. intiinii ka qayb qaadatay iyo intiinii qalbiga ka jeclaysatay tawxiidkaas ilaahay loogu dhawaanayo iyo dariiqaas taqdaaranku taqwada ilaahay iyo midnimo. asalaamu calaykum waraxmatullah.